Hey there, my friend Perry Tinsley here. Welcome to another Power Blast podcast where we provide nourishment for the soul, allowing you to transform from the inside out, providing rapid results in mindset and fitness so that you can recharge your battery and reclaim your power. And you're going to love today's episode because my friend Jessica Friesen is on as a special guest. And we're going to talk about some things that I've never talked about on this podcast in its 17-year run. Jessica is a fertility mindset coach. And while we do talk about some energy and health and fitness and really a lot of the mindset stuff, she's going to share about her journey, especially the struggles with fertility and everything that goes with it. I had no idea all the things that go with that, how she's helping making a big impact for so many lives. We're going to talk about a book that she's written and just some of these things that as she's sharing her journey in these words of wisdom, if you're really paying attention, you will notice how many of these things can apply to so many areas of life, whether you're going for a career, whether you're into your health and fitness journey, or whether you're just helping to build relationships. There's so many incredible things. So let's get to that interview. Hey, everyone. I have a special guest on here. Jessica Friesen's on here. And you know what? I gave you an intro at the beginning, but she's not just a mom, just a wife. She's also this expert in, what do I want to say? Making our minds super powerful. Ooh, that sounds pretty cool. Now, Jessica, Certified Fertility Mindset Coach. I think I saw that on your social media and website. And you've also got not just the best, an international best-selling book that helps people make their dreams come true. There's more to that, of course. But today in our chat, I'd love to talk about health and fitness stuff, fertility. That's a big thing, energy, and just how we can help make our minds help us feel like at our peak, at our best. So welcome to you, Jessica. I'm glad to have you on the Power Blast podcast. It's so awesome.
Harry, thank you so much for having me. I love doing this, so this is always a pleasure. So thank you.
Yeah, it's so fun. Okay, everyone, I was just on Jessica's podcast like a week ago. We had such a blast and we were just talking. It's like, oh my gosh, we got to have you on here because we talked about so many things that I know you who are listening or even just watching on the other end, whether you're catching this on in the audio version or on YouTube here, where you're going to get some great nuggets. But what I'd love for you to share, Jessica, and I'm sure you can go in different routes this way, but just kind of give a little background story of, how you've come to be where you're at today and what are some of the things that you've come through and how you're, best serving the people that you're serving today. And then we'll get into the book stuff and all those things.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I would say in 2014, I found myself smack dab in the fertility world. My husband and I were trying to extend our family, because I'm a stepmom. My husband had 3 daughters from a previous marriage as well. So we were married in 2012, got busy trying to create or extend our family is a nice way of saying it. And it just, things weren't working the way we thought. And we found ourselves, in the fertility world. And it was a really gloomy place to be. Everywhere I searched to try and find positivity or find hope, it was just dwindling hope everywhere. And it was really hard for me that way because I felt incredibly alone. And none of my friends, none of my family members I knew ever struggled with infertility. So I didn't feel like I had anywhere to turn. And every resource that I reached out to, it was just, don't expect to get pregnant on the first try. You're going to spend, a substantial amount of money on fertility treatments. And, there's never any guarantee, XYZ. It was just not a happy place to be. And I needed positivity. I needed something to anchor my mind because our minds are incredibly powerful. But when you're on a fertility journey, you're already, you hear and feel a lot of things. You start to feel alone. You start to feel like your body's not doing what you want it to do. You're spending a lot of money. And if finances are a situation, which were for myself and my husband when we started fertility treatments, we really had no business paying for it. Um, it was all credit card debt and other things until my father-in-law so graciously gave us a loan. But that in turn also put that much more pressure on me. He didn't. I put that pressure on myself because I was like, if I'm borrowing money from a family member, I better at least end up with something instead of just empty arms and a huge loan against me. Um, and it just, I needed mindset, I needed something, and that's kind of how I fell into law of attraction. um because we had our stepdaughters in our house, we didn't want to uproot their life, so there was a lot of times I had to drive to appointments and stuff by myself early in the morning so that my husband could drive them to school. And I needed, again, it's that needing something to just lift you up. So I started listening to like law of attraction audiobooks and things like that. And I really liked how they talked about gratitude. And I really started to feel gratitude. And they talked about, just how you can send love to people without actually talking and sending them love verbally. And I really liked that because it started making me think, when I would go out in public and I would run into all these people pregnant, I I would always have that feeling of like, when's it going to be my turn?
Mm.
And there was always that like pit of sadness that was with it. It was just, you feel, I don't know the exact words, like worthless isn't the words, but it really impacted my self-image a lot. And I already felt incredibly grateful because I had kids in my house, but step kids are not the same as your own kids. And I don't mean to say that in any way, shape, or form in a bad way. I always wanted to have kids from a young age. So I didn't want to not be able to have my own kids as well. And I actually have a bit more of a say, because as a step parent, the two parents have, they get more of the say than the step parent does. So, and I knew my stepdaughters would be amazing sisters. And I wanted to blend our family. I wanted to have all of these things. And I came across a quote that I even put it in my book. But it was something along the lines of your story could be someone else's survival guide. So I started doing voice memos and things like that on my drives about things that I was going through, things that I was learning, how incorporating gratitude and different things into my life started changing the way I was feeling about myself. It started changing the relationship that my husband and I were going through because, in full transparency, there was a bit of resentment. um, I didn't think it was fair that I had to go on a fertility journey when he got to do it naturally with someone else. And just, having to do a lot of it alone. Not by choice. I know in a heartbeat he would have been there if he could have been, but we had three little girls in our house that had to get to school, or bringing them to a fertility clinic was not necessarily something that we wanted to do. So, yeah, it was just that quote stuck with me. And I thought, like, what if my story could be someone else's survival guide? And I had switched my mindset to, I hope I get to have a baby, to I know that I get to be a biological mom. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know I am, and I know I can share this story because I have a voice. And the flip side of that, before I ever started listening to Law of Attraction, I always considered myself a very quiet, shy person. I've never been embarrassed, or talking about sexuality or anything like that. Like, I never got embarrassed in health class or any of those things. But I was always very quiet and shy. And listening to Law of Attraction and reading that quote, I thought, I have a voice, and somehow, some way, I'm going to use this. And I don't know how. Um, and then fast forward to 2019. So in 2015, I did have twins. I really did believe that I manifested my boy girl twins, because after a lot of listening, I really understood mindset in a certain way that, like, there's the such thing as the universe prime. You get to choose and pick what you wanted. In the fertility world here in Canada, you don't get to choose your gender. Um, and even if you do like genetic testing and everything, the only way you get to choose your gender is if you have an underlying genetic condition that you could only carry a certain gender of baby to not pass on certain genes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Whereas I've interviewed different people on my podcast where in the States, you get to choose their eye color, their genes. Like, it's, you go through a catalog, and I thought, that's incredible. We don't get to do that here. Um, there is, when you choose a donor, there is a bit more, but the States is definitely, they allow you to do a lot more things than they do here in Canada. Um, so when we found out we were having boy girl twins, which is what I was really manifesting, like every morning, when I would get ready for work, I I was like beaming when I was having a shower. I was like, I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant with boy girl twins. I'm having one pregnancy. It's going to be incredibly amazing. And I just felt as if all of this was happening before I was even pregnant. So that was something that my husband was like, how do you know that we're going to have twins? How do you know we're going to have boy girl twins? And I was like, back then I didn't call it the universe of prime. I just said, I'm placing my order and this is what I want. And yes, I would have been 100% satisfied with a single baby, a healthy baby, but I knew I wanted twins, and I knew I wanted boy girl twins. And that's what I just kept asking for every day. I wrote myself a letter from a year from the date that approximately when my transfer was going to be. And I just, like, I wrote myself this letter saying, I'm sitting in the rocking chair, singing to my babies and doing, like, I wrote out such detail. And because I was just like, I'm going to read this a year later and say, like, I manifested all of these things. And believe it or not, I manifested all of those things. So it just made me understand how powerful our minds are, and how important it is to shut off the chatter that goes inside, because that is what deters you from having the success and the things that you want in life, including your family. So
Wow, I've got a few questions here. Yeah. So just to unpackage a couple things with what Jessica said, if you're listening, this stuff not only applies to with what she went through in her journey, but you can think of other things in life the inner chatter. You spent a lot of time with yourself, and so how does you said you came upon the law of attraction, and I don't know how you came upon that, what gravitated toward, it's like, I'm leaning into this material a little bit more. And where was there a pivotal moment where, obviously the quote, and maybe that was the pivotal moment, but to where you started saying, you know what, there is that part of me that I'm turning to. I don't want to even say negative, but there's probably, I'm just guessing because I haven't gone through what you did.
yeah.
So I can only guess. It's like you said, not self-worth, but maybe it's like, and I can only think if it was me, it might be like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this happening to me? I'm seeing
Yes.
it all around me. And we can get into these, looking at everything around you and then internalizing that and making that as so, where it's like, but that's not what I desire.
Mhm.
And so we get these desires and we paint the picture, might even journal and write it very descript, sort of storyline that you're like, oh gosh, this is what I desire. This is me. But then sometimes there's that contrast of, yeah, but
Mhm.
evidence in front of me is showing me this. Really isn't a lot of support out here, which really surprises me. When you said that you were searching for that thing, but I know I'm probably tapping into like 3 or 4 of those things that 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 you just that just popped in my head. Why? How did you how did you make that transition? Was it just this persistence, this
Uh,
desire?
yeah. So I would say, to answer your first question, I, back in the days in 2002, 2012, 2013, I was in an MLM business. Um, because I wanted to generate an extra income, and they were always about personal development. But things that I was reading, it was like career development kind of thing. Like, it wasn't so much more self stuff. It was just like, you know, go pro and different things like that, like how you can advance your business and how you can do things like that. And I've always been an avid reader. I love, love, love reading. Um, so because I had kind of had a bit of exposure, I guess, to personal development books, I thought, what can I listen to on my hour-long drive one way each way? So at least 2 hours a day, I'm going to be listening to something. What do I want to listen to that can uplift me? So that's how I kind of stumbled in law of attraction, because I was searching for uplifting things, because I thought I'm going to fall asleep at 5 a.m. getting on the road to drive an hour just for blood work, listening to telling me how I can 10x my business or
Okay.
whatever.
Not a bad
um
thing if you're wanting to 10x your business, but
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
But I needed that hope. So um there was a lot of stuff going on internally. I really didn't feel like I was enough, and I often started to question myself if I was worthy of being a biological mom. And at one point in our journey, my husband and I actually even had the conversation of, would I be okay if I was just a stepmom for the rest of my life? And I truthfully, honestly sat with that question for a while. My instant answer was yes. Of course, I love my stepdaughters. But there was still that part of me that was like, if I don't give it everything, I'm gonna have regret, and I can't handle living with regret, and I can't handle that knowing what if for a lifetime. So yes, persistence is a massive key. And my fertility doctors and nurses even said, like, stay. In 2014, everything was called chat rooms. It wasn't called social media. But they said, stay out of chat rooms, do not, interact with other people. And I'm a curious person. So I was like, of course I'm going to check out these chat
Just
rooms,
because
see
you
what
said don't
people,
do it, now I'm in there.
yeah. And I really understood why they told me to not, um, because, you start to understand that people have underlying medical conditions, or, you know, different fertility procedures and things like that. Nothing is guaranteed to work, and it's science. Even if you have the absolute perfect conditions for everything, it does not guarantee you're going to get pregnant the first try by any means. And everyone will have a horror story to tell you about a doctor or a delivery, or, you know, you can go down a whole rabbit hole, but it was such a negative place. And I kept reaching out to people to try and connect so I didn't feel so alone. And a lot of people, still in 2014, it was very taboo to talk about miscarriage. It wasn't as openly talked about as infertility is today. And, people are just like, it's my story, I don't want to talk to you, but like, we're in here because we're sharing medical protocols, or we're sharing different things. And I thought, oh, okay. And I stayed in it. I didn't stay active. And I was so excited when I finally got to announce that I was pregnant, and I actually got kicked out of the group.
Is
because
that
they're
the
just like,
goal?
well, good for you, but we're still not there.
Yeah.
And that's even when the quote for me was like, there needs to be help somehow in some way. And I thought I need to help. I don't know how, but I need to help. And then I got busy, being a stay-at-home mom of twins and raising three stepdaughters. So I went from three stepdaughters to five kids in a house, and my twins were preemies. So it was just, there was a whole lot of fear that really stepped in, that I really listened to for a long time. um so then in 2019 I started really studying law of attraction, because my mind kept saying to me, like, you manifested your babies, what else can you manifest in your life?
Mm.
And I thought, like, I want to manifest how I can help people, how I can do things differently, um and just heal from traumas and dramas and things like that I've experienced in my life, and how to quiet the chatter that still goes on. um and my husband and I wanted to have one more baby, and the chatter that was really going on with me was like, how dare you be so greedy? Like, you
Mm.
already have three stepdaughters, you have two healthy twins that are a boy and girl, you got everything that you wanted. Why would you put yourself through all of this again? Like, just be grateful for what you have. But there was just this little nudge inside that said, you're not done yet. You are not done yet. And my husband and I had talked, and he said, I've always wanted a big family. I've always wanted to do this. Yeah, we're going to go for it. And as I was studying the law of attraction and studying universal laws and really understanding mindset, I went to work. I manifested my last baby. I said I wanted, again, universe prime, blonde hair, blue-eyed baby boy. That's what I got.
When put in your order.
Yes.
Hmm.
And it just, I came up with a name for a podcast, and I said, I have a voice and I got to use this voice. um I like had this whole plan on how I could help people, and then my self-image took over again. And then the pandemic hit and all the other things hit, and I was like, okay, well, we're just going to push this aside. Because again, I had teenagers in the house that they them going through a pandemic was so radically different than having young children going through the pandemic. They're like, hey, I get to play outside all day, this is fun. Where my teenagers were like, I don't get to see my friends. I'm doing schooling online, the house has to be dead quiet because the embarrassment that someone could hear their siblings in the background and things like that. It was just a whole new ball game. um and then, you know what? The voice didn't leave. It just said, you have to help people. So I was having a lot of conversations with women from 2019 on about fertility. Like, I told them the clinic that I went to, I told them my medical protocols, I told them exactly what I did with changing my mindset and going through gratitude. I gave them kind of step by step. And every person I talked to, they said, why aren't you telling people? Like, how can you get this out to the masses? And I was like, I don't know, my podcast that someday I'll get around to doing.
Mm.
Um, and then, yeah, I knew that there was something inside that I couldn't just keep quiet anymore. So I attended Kathleen's, one of her free sessions, and
Kathleen Karen, right?
it
Kath-
just, she said something. She talked about this coaching program, and I thought, and I it happened to just put up my hand, raise something. I asked a question. She's like, I'll see you in the coaching program. And that's all that took for me to sign up. And I thought, I know how I can do this now. I know I meant to coach. I know I meant to help people, because I would have given anything to have, this isn't to toot my own horn, but I would have given anything to have someone like me in their corner, helping them along their journey and getting them to understand how incredibly powerful we are. And so after doing the coaching program, I started my own coaching business. I started my podcast. Um, and then in my mastermind group, another woman named Jessica, she asked a bunch of us, she said, do you guys want to write a book? And I was like, yes, I do. Absolutely. Yes, I do. Because I thought, how else do I get this out to the masses in a different form? Um, and that was it. And it was just, I shared a lot about my fertility journey. And in that book, we share all the ways of manifesting, told through myself and my other three co-authors, our own journey, how we use those tools and techniques to create the life that we have now. So
Cool. Wow. Just the just putting those things into I think just your growth, where as you were going through it, and I'm going back to that little group that you were in, and getting the caution from the doctors, and you just saying, well, I'm going to go in there anyway.
mm-hmm.
And not knowing that could be the fuel of the research, or at least the backbone of these people need what my mission is. Whether you knew that was going to be your mission at the moment, but what was it called, the survival guide, that's
Mm-hmm.
planted a seed. And now that you've gone through this, and to be able to, a lot of times we come upon things in life where it's like, would you be okay with just, if it was just this way, and the dream and the ideal thing, if it just wasn't in the cards for you, would you be okay with that? And I can see that where that self pops up for a lot of us, where it's kind of like, just be satisfied. And I was in Kathleen's group with you, for those you don't know, and it's like, be grateful, but you don't have to be satisfied, or you can want more and desire more out of life. And a lot of times we've either been in because of our old programming, or our own old thinking, or just the way we've been brought up to have this conditioning where it's just like, well, just be grateful for where you're at. And it's almost as if it's not only be grateful where you're at and let the rest go. But does that have to be? Whether it's fertility, whether it's getting your health and fitness, it's like, well, you lost the weight, just be happy. Why are you signing up for a marathon? Those sort of things. And when new levels, or other possibilities happen, who's to say that more possibilities aren't out there to go after?
Mm-hmm.
And so you did that. You're like, let's have another baby, but that additional, that wonderful self that is like trying to keep us protected for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to be grateful of that too. But it's like, let's journey forward. And so good for you. Your podcast is called The Fertility Mind, correct?
Yeah, the
Is
fertility
it
mind
all?
podcast.
Is it all about the fertility and what people are going through? Because when I'm thinking of that, I'm like, there are so many things in life where there's the seed that gets planted, and sometimes we don't even nourish it to grow and thrive and do and become these other things, because it's like, yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, you just think of maybe things that you've thought of, like, oh, that would be a great invention, and then 5 years down the line you see that somebody else created it, and you're like, oh, that was my idea. But
Yeah.
do you tap into those sort of things as well?
So I do a lot of teaching on my podcast. So I talk about like releasing emotional triggers. I talk about mindset and manifestation tools and techniques and things like that. But I also have guests where they share their fertility journey, and it's more so to showcase the hope and the positivity that when you persist through some hard things, because a fertility journey is incredibly unique to each person going through it, even the couple that's going through it together. how you feel. Like I've interviewed quite a few same-sex couples. Not all of them wanted to actually be live on my podcast, but I've done lots of interviews
Mhm.
and just things that they go through as well. But then there's the caring partner and there's a non-caring partner. So even though you're in this journey together, whether you're same-sex or a heterosexual couple, you know, you're both going through something very different. So to answer your question, I want to showcase like how both people, or even if you're doing this all by yourself, um, how mindset and manifestation can bring you closer together. Or if you're doing this by yourself, you can absolutely understand how to control your mind and how to persist through some things, because I truly know so many people that have given up on their fertility journey, whether it's finances or their mind says you can't emotionally go through another loss or struggle or emotional impact, so just be done. um and the people that are open and willing to my questions that I ask them, I asked the tough question of, think of your life in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years from now. Are you going to be left with a question of, what if I would have tried one more time and I had a successful pregnancy? If you, without a shadow of a doubt, say, I've got it in me, run and go. And some people need to sit with that and really think about that. And some people say, you know what? No, I've made this decision. This is what I need to do. um, but you have to ask yourself that question. And because I know a lot of people um, that have given up on their fertility journey because they didn't have the mindset or the tools to carry them through something, and are very much now in a state of saying, if I would have known you, or would have known about law of attraction, or would have known about mindset or any of those tools, I would have definitely given it my all. But I'm now, you know, I'm in my older is not the right, I'm in my next phase of life where, you know, at 55 or 60 you might not want to try.
Mhm.
um but I've come across quite a few women that have said to me like, wow, if I would have understood what you preach, I think things could have been very different for me. And I just think, and that's why I want to do what I do, because I want you to be able to ask yourself those tougher questions, because I really do hold a belief that life is worth living, and it's worth living to its fullest.
Mhm.
So what does that look like for you, and what is holding you back? Because if something's holding you back, then how do we flip that perspective for you to get you to where you need to be, to have what you want to have, and quiet that chatter, because the chatter is what will keep you exactly where you are. And you don't want to look back at your life and say, I settled for this, I settled for that. And I can even tell you, from my first fertility journey to my second fertility journey, the growth and understanding that I had in mindset, how many times I settled in my first fertility journey until I got to the point where I said, no, I'm placing my order to Universe Prime. I'm getting exactly what I want, and I got it. Um, and just, but I settled in many things until I kind of said, no, I can't settle anymore. Like, if this is my last go, if this is my last try, I'm not settling. I'm pulling out all the stops. I'm doing everything that I need to do, because I don't know if I'm unique, but I can't handle the what if. I don't, if I'm going to ask myself the what if I can do it,
Mhm.
not the what if in the negative, because I lived in a negative for so long, um, that I thought I can't live in that negative anymore. And I want people to be able to ask those questions, and whatever, I truly believe whatever answer that they feel is right for them is right for them. I'm not here to change your mind and say I guarantee you a baby or anything like that. I'm here to get you to open your mind, ask yourself questions, understand where your thoughts and patterns are, and truly understand how much power our mind has over our body, and how when you open yourself up to possibilities and you open yourself up to beliefs and awareness and gratitude, you are open to receive in a very different state than just being in a place of, I hope that this is what I can have, but if it doesn't work, I guess that's meant to be.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We've talked ourselves into a lot of, oh, I guess this is the way life is supposed to be, or it's meant to be. And I think along with you and when we were in Kathleen's community and a lot of the other communities that we were a part of, that awareness of even your thinking of rationalizing or defending, in my world, well, not my world, in like the health and fitness world, a lot of times we defend our limitations. And it's like, oh, I don't like vegetables. Oh, I'm not a morning person, and nobody can tell me different. Just because we built that belief and we've gotten good at it, and just that's the way it is. Just the things that you brought up here, should somebody be in that, on their fertility journey, maybe having the self-doubt or the it's like I don't know where to turn, to going from that just hoping, wishing maybe this is the way life is, to really even just becoming aware that they're having some thinking, and to connect with Jessica, because there can be just some very simple yet potent questions that when you ask yourself, and you can give yourself, be radically honest with yourself, because a lot of times, once again, we will rationalize things away, either because there's no evidence in front of us, or we've gotten some news, or we've been in a community, or if you're in the message boards, whatever that is, that it can really compound again, not against you, but it can kind of feel compressing, I would bet. Mm-hmm. But when you can become aware of that and saying, I'm turning to this, but now I want to, what if I turn to the possibility of the what if it does work? Mm-hmm. And if there is that desire, and I can start asking those questions and realizing when I'm coming up with one of those knee-jerk responses of, yeah, but it won't work for this, or it won't work for me, and I'm sure this goes beyond even just the immediate family. I'm sure that there's like extended family members that have expectations of kids and grandkids and whatever, so there's probably some input and pressures there that people will feel. But, I think it's beautiful that you've not only you really paid attention to your journey. And I can tell even by the way you shared your journey today, your decision-making is different. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, it sounded like it was like, no, I'm going this way. No, I've decided this. Mm-hmm. And how does that go? Have you applied that to other things in your life too? No, this is where I'm going. This is me.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, I guess, when you start to understand mindset, you can apply it to every area of your life. It's not just fertility. It's not just health and fitness. Like, you can manifest your dream home, your dream job, whatever it is that sparks your fancy. Maybe, you want to travel the world. You can have these things. And I think it's just like, without going into like the whole detail of my fertility journey, like, there was some incredibly dark times. There was moments where I've had a cycle canceled, meaning like we were driving to the appointment all prepared to transfer embryos, and they told us it's not happening today. And I was like, what the F? A lot of expletives. Yeah. And just crushing after crushing after crushing. And I experienced a lot of stuff on my fertility journey. And, I will be a broken record when I say every fertility journey is incredibly unique and very different to the people in it, your doctors, your medical protocols. Even my first fertility journey was different, not only just because of my mindset, but just everything about it was very different. And I persisted through some very very hard times, and we had $0 in our bank account. We were often in our overdraft, but I had faith going into an appointment. The money was going to be there, that I could pay for things, and I did, because I held a very strong faith. Um, and this, my secondary journey was all happening in December, just before, Christmas. And I'm thinking, I've got 5 kids that we have to have at Christmas. We're paying for fertility treatments and all of this. Like, I do not want to crush my kids' dreams because I'm choosing to expand my family again. And the money showed up in multiple different forms, ways that we didn't think could ever happen, because I was open. Um, and I just, sometimes people, when they hear a little bit of my about my journey, there's that instant like, oh well, you were one of the lucky ones, oh you had money, oh you had this. No, I need to, I guess, express that part, that you can persist through some very hard things if you're willing to understand your desire, and you're willing to understand, you know, how powerful you are, and you're willing to understand, be open to how things can happen. And that kind of brings me into the wellness part of things. Um, I chose to work out because that was my way of releasing stress. And when I would get crushing news, my goodness, I would, tell my kids or my stepdaughters, I'm like, I need 30 minutes. Play around me, do whatever you want, but the TV is on and I'm doing my home workout, and you're going to see tears running down my face and sweat, but I'm burning this out so that it doesn't stay within me. Um, but yes, on your fertility journey as well, I can tell you how many people are like, oh, I can just go eat McDonald's. I can go have this because I just had this procedure, or I had this. Yes, my goodness. It all kind of relates. Um, but working out really did, like, that's when my mind becomes crystal clear. That's, I was doing a workout when I felt like, when the name of my podcast came to me, I have no idea. I wasn't thinking about my podcast. I was literally like doing a cardio exercise, and I just, like, I thought, the Fertility Mind podcast. I
Love
thought,
it.
I'm not, like, I wasn't listening to a podcast. I wasn't even thinking about my podcast when I was doing that. It just popped in, press pause. I wrote it down, and I was like, I was just completely open. I was not filled with the chatter of anything else going on in my life. I was just focused in that moment. And, I'm an advocate for working out because I'm not ever worried about a size or things like that. I think about health and longevity and how I can help myself. Um, and I always tell my fertility clients, I'm like, if you need to go for a walk, if you need to do something to move your body, to shut your mind off of what is happening right now in your environment, shut it off so that you can visualize, or you can connect to what it is that you want. Or if sometimes you just need to cry in peace, um, do whatever you can to release your emotions, to keep going forward. Because often, that when you have the crystal clear feeling, you can become more connected, versus, again, it's that chatter of like, I really want to have another baby, but am I greedy for wanting that? Or can I really refinance my mortgages and things like that and put a loan on my house for a baby? All the things that you can possibly think of, plus the self-image stuff that happens when you think, like, you know, I swear, when you're trying to have a baby, I know this is not politically correct to say, but everywhere you go, you will see someone pregnant, and often younger generations, and you think, they probably didn't even want this at this moment, and I would give anything to have it. And you start to think, like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Like, I feel like I'm a good person. I feel like I'm trying to do my best, all the things. So shut off the chatter
Mm.
and really connect with what it is that you want, whether it's health and longevity, or, a family. But you can apply all of these tools to every area of your life. And I get excited because I've got little kids in my house, and I'm like, they are such creative beings. Um, that I love sitting and watching them, because I'm like, your mind is just this untapped amazingness of creativity. And I want them to be able to keep fostering that creativity. And I want them to know that they are so much more powerful, because they're not bogged down with, what our parents taught us of, you know, generational things of, you have to work really hard, you have to save every penny, you shouldn't really do anything until you're retired. You know, I teach my clients in their fertility journey, because for them, they're always like, well, I'll be happy when I'm pregnant, or I'll be happy if they've been pregnant before, I'll be happy when I make it to this certain part in my pregnancy, or I'll be happy once the baby's home safe. And I tell them, but you got to be happy right now. And even in the toughest things that you're going through in a fertility journey, or financial struggles, or loss, whatever is happening on in your world, you can still find joy. And the faster you tap into that joy, you will start to see things. It's like we talked about on my podcast, like the quantum leap. It's the collapsing of time, where things are like, holy crap, like I'm allowed to be happy and go through a fertility journey. I'm allowed to be happy. No, you're not allowed. You are. Just do it. You don't have to have permission to live your life. And no one around you has to agree with what you're doing. If you feel that this is what you need to do, go do it. Don't wait for someone to tell you. Don't wait for someone to agree with you. Don't wait for your best friend to be like, oh, maybe I'll do it with you too. No, like, just take the bull by its horns. Because we really are here for such a short period of time, even though sometimes when you're living life, you're thinking, oh my gosh. But the truth is just, you don't know how capable you are of doing things until you try. But when that chatter is so loud telling you, oh, well, you can pay your bills and you get to travel once a year, or, you got it good. So don't complain. Don't want more. Yes, want more. It's okay. And you're not greedy, and there's nothing wrong with you for wanting more. So that's like my message to people, is just really understand you. What do you want? And why are you stopping yourself? If you're worried about what people think, they don't pay your bills. You know, they don't make you happy. So their opinion of you doesn't matter. I know that's easier said than done, because I struggled with that for a long time, caring what people thought. And just the end of the day is, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I want my kids to grow up thinking like, wow, I can do anything. Not grow up thinking, what do I want to be for the rest of my life, and how am I going to do this, and how am I going to do that? And for my clients, just when I say to them, like, what do you really want? What do you really want? Like, I can honestly say the conversations when you ask people, like, how many children do you want? They're just like, well, I'm in the fertility world, so I'll be happy with one. I'm like, okay, great, but what do you really want? And they're just like, what do you mean? Like, just one would be okay. And I say, if you could have everything, what would you want? And they'll say, I want to have twins, or I want to have 4 or 5 kids. Like, I want to have a baseball team. And you think, good, then go for it. But it's that feeling of, you feel guilty, or you feel like, you know what, you look at the rest of the world, and some people are really struggling, and some people don't have this. So, just stay in this tiny box and you're doing good.
Yeah.
And I say, no, go live.
Yeah, so many things you just unpacked there. Very good. I mean, I can, while I haven't gone on this type of journey, the journey parallels in other areas of life, and it when you can get yourself to that place, and it does take some repetition with because those old stories, they're not even old stories, the stories that are just happening now that have been happening, or just behaviors and habits and things that we've gotten so good at that we don't even think about. replacing those with what it is that you desire. And it's like, wow. And that's, so I love that you would be like, but how, what would you love? You know, if you're ordering from a menu here, you know, and you get to order, it's all inclusive, you know, and, but they're just going over and just saying, well, you know, this is just the one thing there, and I'll settle for that. And I love how you put that. You didn't say it as the menu, but that's what popped in my head. But anyway, okay, there's a couple things here just before we go. You've got a book. Okay, the podcast. Just if you want to check out Jessica's podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, the Fertility Mind podcast is one of the things. How can they tap into, you know, maybe give a little info about your book, what somebody can expect from that and where they can get that, and if they want to learn more about, hey, gosh, how can I work with Jessica? You can share that too.
Yeah. Okay. So my book, there's four of us. We co-authored. It's called Manifesting with Purpose: Aligning to Your Soul's Desires. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to our website, manifestingwithpurposebook.com. You can find me on social media, The Fertility Mind, or Jessica_Friesen_me. I have two. I have my fertility one that is all fertility. And then I've got the Jessica Friesen one that is, it's my personal one where I share all my family and all my other things. My fertility one, I try and be very tactful, because there's a lot of people that still can't even go to a baby shower or see a pregnancy announcement without triggers. So I try and be very respectful of that space. The other one is just my life out loud. So,
Cool.
or you can go to my website, www.thefertilitymind.com. It's got my email, it's got my book on there. It has how you can book sessions with me or a discovery call if you're interested about my services. But all in general, the book is just about mindset and manifestation. And at the end of each chapter, we just give you we call it a chapter in practice. We give you a bunch of journal prompts, because we talk about how important journaling can be to just understanding you. And like Perry mentioned, yes, this didn't just happen overnight. It did take work. It did take, I still have moments. I'm always open to signs, but I even had moments where I was like, you know what, I have no business doing what I'm doing. And then, I watch a TV show or something when I'm in bed at night, and you just see, like, you have no idea how you're helping people just by putting free stuff out there. And like, you just hear those things. I'm like, yes, I have every business doing this, because I have no idea the impact of, yes, I can see how many people have downloaded my episodes and things like that, but I have no idea the impact that it makes on someone's lives, other than when I get comments or reviews. Or I just got a beautiful email from a lady where she listened to my podcast through her whole fertility, and she's now pregnant. Whereas she had been on a fertility journey for a year before that with no success. So you get these things and you think, I know I'm on the right track, in the sense, it is a mission to help people understand how to live their best life. So that's me, and that's my heart out there. It's just what I love to do. So I hope that answered your question, Perry.
Yeah,
I went on
that's
a
great. I
little
mean, I'll drop
tangent.
those links down in the show notes and stuff there to share the websites and the book and everything like that. And the interesting thing, when you're out there creating the content, whether it's on your podcast or even just getting on a free call with somebody to just discuss and maybe walk away with a couple of just mindset strategies, or even to get your book, even though you may not see the instant feedback in a review or in a download number or anything like that, there is a major ripple that happens each time you do that. Even when you get the idea that, gosh, I'm going to possibly do this as an episode. And that ripple effect not only helps the other person receiving it on the other end, but all the people in their lives. And so that is such a rush when you're not only the survival kit for one person and what they're going through, but helping that person shift, and now they've got a different perspective. They're changing their lives, but that changes so many their outer world. And so that is really, really cool, Jessica, that you're doing this. I'm so proud of you. It's fun to be to hear your journey and to have been in this group with you as well. And so cool with the book. And thanks so much for being on and sharing your journey and your words of wisdom on this podcast. It's so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. And I always love chatting with you, Perry. So thank you. Thank you.
Yay. Well, everyone, make sure you go over to the show notes, check that out, and head over to the Fertility Mind podcast. You're going to get lots of nuggets over there. So anyway, you take care, and thanks so much, Jessica.
Thank you.
That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.